Well, we finally have an update on Marvel Zombies. It's been months since we've heard anything, and earlier today, Iman Vellani, that's right, Ms. Marvel, spoke up and gave us the first little bit of news about the show in several months. So let's take a couple minutes to talk about where she fits in, the new show, and what's going on. Now, before we do that though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. We do daily Marvel and DC videos, and we want to be your place for all the superhero news, but we're going to do it truthfully and transparently, so you are really in the know. Well, as many of you know, Marvel Zombies was one of those animated series Marvel announced a few years ago at San Diego Comic-Con. But like many of those other shows, we haven't received very many additional details. Now, this version of the characters is spun right out of last year's What If, and fans have had a ton of questions on where Marvel is taking this and turning it into a whole series and which characters could appear. Now, earlier today, we got an unusual update because this wasn't who I was expecting to get an update from Marvel Zombies from. And that's Miss Marvel herself, Iman Vellani. Now recently, she was talking to The Direct, and although most of this conversation surrounded the Marvels and some of the things doing with that movie, in that same conversation she confirmed she's already recorded her lines for the show and has a pretty interesting role, which is not something I was expecting. She said, "We've done the whole thing. It was amazing. It was so much fun. And there are a lot of cool characters in the Marvel Zombie show. And Kamala is kind of the center of the show. They described it to me, it's like she's basically the Frodo of the story." And I was like, that's amazing. Now, last year we saw some artwork that showed her alongside Shang-Chi, Jimmy Woo, Hawkeye, Death Dealer, Red Guardian, and Yelena Belova, along with zombified versions of some big Marvel names including the Abomination, Ghost, Captain America, Icarus, and Captain Marvel. Now, in that same conversation, she went on to talk about how excited she was sharing the screen with so many of the MCU's big hitters, saying, "I get to interact with all these people along her journey, and yes, there are only the voices, and I don't hear the voices in real time, but just, it's my fantasies, right? Like knowing Kamala is going to interact with some really cool people, even if it's just animation, it's so special in a lot of ways." Now, as I've said about Iman since we got to see her in Miss Marvel, her enthusiasm for the MCU is absolutely infectious, and especially right now, I think that's the kind of energy we really need surrounding Marvel projects. As for the whole thing being kind of built around her, well, honestly, that youthful perception and her character itself, that's really not such a bad idea. You need a main character of focus, kind of the story being told from their perspective, and with a huge ensemble, you don't want to get too distracted from that. And since fans have responded pretty positively, I can't wait to see where this goes. Now, we don't have many other details about the show. It is believed the show is going to showcase some of the events from the What If episode, What If Zombies, but from a different perspective and a different group of survivors. In the comics, Marvel Zombies was a pretty short-lived series in 2005. It was only 5 issues long, but was written by the legendary Robert Kirkman, who would go on to create The Walking Dead, with art by Sean Phillips and covers by Arthur Sidum. I've linked that series down below. You should give it a read. It's a really great comic and one of Marvel's best alternate reality stories. Marvel Zombies still doesn't have a premiere date, but we're going to keep a close eye on that. We're expecting it in the first half of 2024, but Marvel hasn't confirmed anything as of yet, so we're going to keep our eyes peeled and bring that to you right away.